Welcome to the Suneratech Solution Showcase webinar series. This is a week-long of thought leadership to help you in your journey to the cloud and solve your journey to the cloud puzzle. My name is Fal Sarkar. I'll be your host today, and we'll be speaking today on digital supply chain and how to transform your digital supply chain processes to take advantage of the cloud and to be able to solve some of the challenges that you're facing when you're in the manufacturing process. Digital supply chain is a relatively recent field. Of course, supply chain has been around for a long time. We all know that production stoppages due to missed promise dates and everything creates a lot of problems, and that's what we'll be addressing today. But first, a quick word about Suneratech. Suneratech is born in the cloud company. We are helping organizations accelerate their digital transformation with the help of pre-built solutions that help our customers in their journey to the cloud and the digital transformation of their business. Suneratech is a born in the cloud company. We've been doing this for over 15 years. And the way we do this is we have a three-switch framework. One, we focus on automation of your IT and of your business. Number two, we focus on migration. We migrate solutions onto the cloud. Your current on-premise solutions are migrated to the cloud, and then new solutions using our pre-built ways of building solutions are also run on the cloud. That way you have all the benefits of the cloud in terms of scalability and security and flexibility, and are able to build modern applications. And thirdly, we help once people are on the cloud, we help drive digital innovation through these pre-built solutions and the solution kits that we're going to be talking about this week, in particular today around digital supply chain. So all of these solutions in this webinar are born in the cloud. And that's the focus of our approach. We'll be at Open World next week. If you are at Open World, please come visit us at booth 3101. As we all know, the journey to the cloud can be very puzzling and can take many roads. Some are well-worn and tested, and other ones are less traveled. So this week, we'll be talking about a range of solutions that are, again, born in the cloud, and we'll be covering today eSeal, which is a Suneratech company with a digital supply chain solution for manufacturing, allows you to transform your traditional supply chain into a digital supply chain. Tomorrow, we'll be talking about automation and automated integration in the cloud and how applications can be brought together, how we use machine learning and pre-built application integrations to allow you to accelerate applications and integrations, especially integrations between on-premise applications and cloud applications. On Wednesday, we'll be talking about testing and test validation for cloud applications like HCM Cloud or ERP Cloud, and how you can accelerate and shorten the time it takes to do testing so you can always have the latest versions of your cloud applications up and running. On Thursday, we'll have an exciting conversation around demystifying artificial intelligence and chatbots for the enterprise and how to harness AI moving forward to help in your customer service, help in your marketing, help in your support organization. And finally, on Friday, we'll be ending talking about lift and shift on-premise workloads onto the cloud. So whether you have Oracle workloads like PeopleSoft or EBS, or you have non-Oracle workloads, or even have custom applications that are currently running in your data center, we help you migrate those applications onto the cloud, help you trim down your data center, control costs, and again, gain the benefits of scalability on the cloud. So today's discussion will be around the digital supply chain and transformation on the cloud with eSeal. So production stoppages due to missed promise dates, loss of sales due to lack of real-time work in progress visibility, lack of product traceability, and work stoppages all impact your ability to deliver product, the revenue you make, and most importantly, your credibility and your reputation. Using Oracle Cloud Platform, IoT, and the digital supply chain, manufacturers can take control of production, lower costs, increase productivity, and maintain customer and supplier loyalty. In this webinar, we will be talking about how digital supply chain can transform your production process, how you can gain visibility and control of your work in progress, how you can reduce errors, reduce overtime, labor costs, reduce delays, and ultimately save costs, some of the best practices, and cloud-based technologies that help you transform this. And then most interestingly, we'll be hearing from a customer, Betashim company that uses the eSeal product, and they're a leading helicopter manufacturing supplier. And of course, we'll be talking about a range of other things as well. So let me introduce our speakers for today. Sudhir Mareddy is CEO and co-founder of eSeal, which is a Suneratech company, and he'll be talking about the eSeal solution. Good afternoon, Sudhir.
Hi, Val, thank you. Good afternoon. And I'm a co-founder of Sunera, and I focus on building and managing innovative business solutions. I provide leadership to eSeal business, which is the digital supply chain solution, which I'm going to talk today. Thank you, Fab.
Great, well, great. Glad to have you here. I know you put a lot of thought leadership, and a lot of your ideas are really embedded in this solution, so we're looking forward to hearing that. And the special guest today is Zach Pratt, Vice President of Production at Betashim. Hi, Zach. Good morning or good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, this is Zach Pratt, and I am in charge of manufacturing here at Betashim Company. We're a helicopter manufacturer for companies like Bell, Lockheed, Sikorsky, so on and so forth. And I will definitely cover the topic of implementation of eSeal into our current process and how it helped us and our customers.
All right, exciting. That's great. We're definitely looking forward to hearing that, because I think ultimately the proof is in the pudding, and hearing from someone who's been in this for a while would be good to hear. So let me switch now over to our presentation here, Sudhir. Let me know when you see it.
Yes, Fab, I'm all set.
Okay, great. So why don't you go ahead? I might jump in and ask a question or two. You could swap me away or answer the question, but let's dive in and get started.
Sure, thank you. Again, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, gentlemen who have joined from various parts of the world. Suneratech offers a solution called eSeal, which is essentially, that enables your digital supply chain. I'm sure some of you who come from supply chain background may already be dealing with digital supply chain, or maybe thinking of implementing it. But we at Suneratech believe that it greatly improves your supply chain in terms of accuracy, visibility, traceability, and analytics. So let's try and understand what these 4 or 5 benefits that come with digital supply chain are. We can go to the next slide, Pal. Yeah. Firstly, accuracy eliminates complete human effort in identifying, it could be components in the supply chain, in identifying, in enumerating, and reporting or updating systems. With eSeal or any digital supply chain solution, you are completely eliminating the human part of it. It's all scan, update, auto update, and auto counting, and so on and so forth. Visibility is where you have a real-time movement view of your supply chain, right from suppliers to WIP production, or it could be the movement of goods from production to your central warehouse, and central warehouse to your distribution centers, and so on and so forth. The digital supply chain would get you a real-time visibility in terms of where things are at any point of time and how they are moving. Even your ERP is updated in real time. Traceability is something that you have a whole lot of data associated with each and every single piece of product or a component, and you're able to trace back the genealogy. Which machine has made it? Who was the shift in charge? Where was the QC done? Who was the suppliers who supplied parts to it? And so on and so forth. Collaboration, again, digital supply chain provides for all your supply chain partners, be it your suppliers, be it your outside system providers or process providers. It could be your third-party logistics providers, and it could be your distributors. All of them can participate in a digital supply chain and update the systems to make sure that you have the complete visibility, accuracy, and traceability. And more importantly, digital supply chain ends up collecting a whole lot of data beyond the ERP. So you're presented with very rich data, both transactional as well as contextual and incidental, so that you can actually draw a lot more rich analytics to improve your supply chain. In effect, what this all means is that your supply chain is much more leaner, smarter. It's very transparent to all your suppliers, all your partners, and eventually it will definitely lead to increase of sales and reduction of cost. Next slide. In this webinar, Jack and I are going to talk about 5 different things. I'll briefly cover the industry trends in terms of what's happening in the industry. What are some of the thought leaders talking about digital supply chain? Then I'll take you deep into the solution in terms of how exactly the solution works for you, and our experiences in terms of where we have implemented this, how many products or how many production lines that we are currently running upon. And then my friend and client, Jack, would talk about the case study and his experiences of implementing eSeal for their cause. And then we would wind up with a call to action. If I can go into the next slide now. Next. A lot of thought leaders, different industry houses have started making statements in the public domain that digital supply chain is here and now. It is very important. You need to be switching on to it to be very competitive. It's important for survival. But what's interesting is what I presented in the next slide. A PwC survey, which was done about a year ago, with a number of supply chain managers across manufacturing industry, has actually reported that by implementing a digital supply chain, people have started to realize that efficiency is going by at least 4.1%. There's a revenue increase of close to 3%. And 1/3 of the companies that they have surveyed have told them that they have already begun the journey. And then about 72% said they would complete it in 5 years. This was a survey done last year. So it kind of indicates that a lot of companies have started implementing some form of digital supply chain. They've embarked upon the journey of digital supply chain. So you can go to the next slide. Fal, next slide, please. Yeah, so McKinsey actually published this about earlier part of this year. They again have done a study on digital supply chain. They looked at a number of companies who have implemented it. And they have reported that the sales loss or service loss has actually reduced by 65 to 70%, which is essentially saying that you have exact amount of inventory as required so that you don't have a situation of a lost sale. The transportation and warehousing has improved. They have reported at least 15 to 30%. The administrative costs have again reduced a lot, which is predominantly labor related, administration activities related, has come down by 50 to 80%. And the cost of inventories have come down significantly. In some cases, 75%, but on average, around 35 to 75%. It essentially says that digital supply chain is indeed very, very helpful, and every manufacturing company should start, their journey. They should have a roadmap in terms of how they're going to implement it for their situation and embark upon the journey. Next slide. Next. Yeah, Fab.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Sure. So eSeal as a solution is essentially built on top of digital technology. We employ a number of digital technologies such as AADC or advanced barcode solutions, mobility, a number of applications in the supply chain deals with mobile apps. A lot of movement in the warehouses, a lot of movement in the distribution centers, a lot of movement in the production means that your application has to be extremely mobile. Cloud is again essential because you have a number of supply chain partners whom you want to participate in the entire digital supply chain. So they have to be logging in seamlessly into the same application that you are putting out for them. And cloud makes it extremely easy for them. Blockchain architecture is essential again for a digital supply chain. eSeal is built on that, which essentially enables a distributed ledger where each and every collaborating partner has the same view and has a transparency of what's happening. For example, there's a service partner who is dealing with a warranty claim, and he has identified a supplier part which need to be communicated to the supplier about a warranty claim back to back on the supplier. Now that information in a blockchain context is real time, as against in a linear flow of information where the service partner would communicate it to the factory, and factory would again collate all that information and communicate it back to the supplier. It could take a month or so. The blockchain is actually quite useful in bringing in the transparency. The IoT technologies, be it embedding it in the transportation of fresh foods, or be it embedding it into your production machines to monitor the environmental, the sensory related things such as voltage, current, heat, temperature, etc. It is actually playing a key role in many vertical industries in manufacturing segment. Augmented reality and virtual reality are extremely useful for visual guidance. For example, we use AR technology in guiding the people in the warehouses to exact location of the product on the mobile app using an AR technology. Drones is another interesting area where a lot of applications are coming up in supply chain. We work with a company which has autonomous drones, which actually help companies do cycle count through autonomous drones. And there are quite a few other applications coming up with this as well. And the list is growing. So eSeal is essentially a hardware and a software solution combined, which is presented to you as one unique solution across the supply chain.
So I had a question here, Sudhir. So, obviously you're talking about a kind of different paradigm of supply chain. Can you at a high level kind of explain, I mean, obviously, these things that you talk about here, blockchain, IoT, AR, they're not in a standard supply chain approach. What is the biggest paradigm shift that customers should think about, or enterprises should think about when they're looking at their traditional supply chain and looking at this digital model? What is a big mindset that they have to switch when they think about this?
Yeah, so the era is transforming from a simple ERP data entry system era into utilizing all the latest technologies, all embedded into a software solution, and helping them to make it much more real time, much more accurate. It's not a rocket science. I mean, it is not a difficult thing to transform, but one has to understand the benefits of it and then start the journey of transformation into a digital supply chain. eSeal, good part about the eSeal is that it's all combined into one solution. We have the client apps, we have the server side, we have the cloud computing, we have the blockchain architecture, we do provide IoT solutions where it's applicable, and so on and so forth. And it's very easy to implement as well, as I would explain in the next slide.
Great.
So this is a very high-level view of how the eSeal solution works in a supply chain situation. Firstly, we employ ADC technologies for coding each and every component that you choose to be. It could be at a component level, or a product level, or a secondary pack level, or a tertiary pack level, or a pallet level. Every component that you choose to track are coded by the ADC technologies. The ADC technology is in turn controlled by eSeal client apps, which actually are installed on scanners, handheld terminals, high-speed camera systems, computers, laptops, desktops that are used in your production floor and your warehouse locations. These bunch of apps are used by the people who are actually managing your production floor, your quality control, your warehouses, and your distribution centers. And these apps are in turn connected to a cloud application, that's the server side of the eSeal application, which controls the entire administration of the eSeal, which controls the entire accounting system, the users, and as well as the connections into the ERP. eSeal connects into most number of standard ERPs off the shelf through application API interfaces, and we take information from the ERP automatically across the supply chain, and we also update information into the ERP automatically. So in other words, you're moving away from human data entry into ERP into a paradigm of allowing eSeal to update the ERP in real time, accurately, with a lot of traceability information attached along with it. So that's, in net effect, eSeal as a system would be a layer above your ERP and would conduct all the operations that are to be done otherwise manually through the AADC technologies, through the eSeal client apps, and the eSeal backend systems as such.
Right. So we had a question, Sudhir, on the chat from Sharad, who's asking what type of IoT solutions are available in eSeal? Does it come with IoT solutions? Does it integrate with third-party solutions? How is IoT worked into this model?
Yeah. So I'll give you, I'll answer that in two cases where we worked with. In one particular case, there was this fresh produce that were to be transported from point A to point B, and there were certain conditions that a certain amount of temperature has to be maintained, a certain amount of moisture has to be controlled. If those parameters are breached, then that particular transportation becomes null and void. So for that, we had to use the IoTs of with sensors of temperature and moisture control, which were directly embedded in the information was being updated into the eSeal system, and eSeal system has controls to take action upon depending upon the data that it's collecting from these IoT sensors. That's a use case, one that we worked with. The second one happened in the production flow. We work with this fans manufacturing company, ceiling fans manufacturing company, which has implemented automatic capturing of quality parameters, such as testing the fan sound in terms of sound at the point of rotation, testing the voltage, the current, etc. There are about 14 parameters that these systems were testing. And all of the systems are nothing but IoT devices that are embedded into the production line. And all of them are integrated with eSeal, wherein all the information about these 14 parameters that are coming in from IoT devices are captured against each and every product, in this case a fan, and stored along with the fan for the life of the fan, so that whenever there's a problem with it, I'll be able to trace it back to what was the parameter that was captured during the production. So to answer the question, Sal, IoT devices are used in the transportation, and IoT devices are used in the production flow, wherever you need to be sensing the environment and capturing the information for someone to monitor it in real time and take an action.
Great. And the integration with the IoT systems, obviously that's what your team does. Are there standard interfaces that work that basically kind of, signal recognition and processing, or is there a lot of work that needs to be done with different types of sensors and things? Do you guys have a repeatable process that can do this quickly, or is that where the hard work is in terms of integrating with some of these systems?
Most IoT applications are plug and play. They come with a very specific purpose, and they come up with their standard set of integration points, which is easier for us to integrate with. And however, there may be certain applications which require a more complex, way of integrating it. Those obviously would take some extra effort and time.
Okay, great. Should I go to the next slide now?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sure. This is a little busy slide, but I would spend a few minutes on this. This is exactly the modules of eSeal. If I look at on the top, we have a module for suppliers. Zach would talk about the module that we've implemented for them. We have a module for production WIP and quality control that happens in the production. We have a module for inventory control, including warehouse management, using digital supply chain principles. We have a module for your distribution partners. We have a module for your service partners, so they are dealing with after-sales service and repairs and warranty. And we have a module for customers as well, which is nothing but a public app on public domain. Each and every module can be implemented in isolation for you. And each and every module has the features that would achieve all the 5 benefits for you. I can just take a few examples. If I take a supplier, the entire WIP at your supplier end can actually be digitalized, and you could get accurate information of what's happening with your suppliers. Sal, I'm still in the same. Yeah, thank you. Right, so you have an accurate view of what's happening at the suppliers in terms of stage-wise progress of whatever you have given out for them to manufacture. You get a real-time visibility, if you choose to, of the activity that's happening at the suppliers. You have a traceability in terms of tracing it back to which supplier has produced what and against which purchase order or which job. Suppliers are logging into the same system, so they're collaborating with you through eSeal system. And then you have a lot more data for you to build reports and analytics upon. Similarly, in the production module, we completely automate the production WIP tracking, a real-time update of ERP, the entire quality control optimized, the quality parameters captured against each and every product, the entire product genealogy capture, and hierarchy mapping of products to secondary, the primary cartons or primary packaging, secondary packaging, and so on and so forth, so that the entire thing is tracked from that point onwards at a much higher level of packaging. And you get all the 5 benefits in that module as well. We have a full-fledged inventory inventory module where your warehouses, right from the GRN to your put away, and then the picking part of it, and the dispatch, and the overall warehouse space planning, and so on and so forth, is all done through the eSeal system in a fairly accurate manner. You get a visibility, you also get a traceability, and so on and so forth. Quite a few manufacturing companies have wholesale distributors, and they may or may not get visibility into the activity at distribution end. But with eSeal module of distribution, they just have to integrate with their current systems. We give a service, they just have to integrate with their current systems, by which you will get to know the complete activity, what's happening at the distributor or wholesaler end, in terms of their inward stock, in terms of their stock position, in terms of their secondary sales, and so on and so forth. Service partners again get a service from eSeal, wherein they could actually scan the parts, identify them by supplier and by manufacturing time, and so on and so forth, and they can replace and bind the part with the product automatically. And that particular information of which part has failed, who is the supplier, when was that made, etc., can all be communicated in real time, both to the supplier as well as to the OEM itself. Customers also have an app wherein they can choose to scan the product, finished product. They can fetch electronic information, product label information. They can collaborate and any survey kind of a thing that you would want them to. And more importantly, across all these modules, you're collecting a whole lot of data. And that data is useful to you for providing a various amount of analytics. You could actually get to a point of prescriptive analytics as well, which we have kind of shown some sample reports in the next slide. Sal, the next one.
Okay, I had a quick question about customers. What are the customers here? These are the people who receive final product, and then they're able to also access the system and get some of these benefits. So they're involved in the supply chain as well. Usually the customers are just the recipient, right?
That's correct. So as every product that's been digital supply chain enabled has a code on it, which we refer to as an eSeal code, This code can be activated for communicating and connecting with the customer as well. We provide an eSeal app on the public domain. They could download that. They could scan the code. They could get a whole lot of information about the product.
Okay, that's great. All right, next slide. Go ahead.
So these are some of the analytics that we already are providing through the eSeal portal, and there are a whole lot of custom analytics that you would want a specific information or a report that you could always order upon. When we hear from Jack, he has a number of reports that he has designed for that suit his business, which is obviously finding it very useful in day-to-day operations. So let me quickly go on to our experiences.
Okay, next slide.
Next one. Thank you. So we've been working with the digital supply chain implementations for the past 7 years. We were fortunate enough to work with a number of industry verticals. Supply chains vary from vertical to vertical, and that we are pretty much aware of as we keep working with these companies. For some of the companies, we have enabled a complete supply chain from the suppliers to the service. In some of the customer situations, we have taken up their production, or we have taken up their production plus inventory. But we do have a custom-built solution for each of these verticals across electricals industry and including appliances industry, agriculture industry, aerospace industry, automotive industry, consumer packaged goods or FMCG industry. Logistics companies also used our solution. The government excise control also uses our solution. And we do work with pharma companies as well. So all in all, if I go to the next slide, as of today, about close to 300 million products across the world are being tracked by eSeal solution. On a daily basis, we issue about 300,000 eSeal IDs to various products across these companies that I talked about. We have embedded our hardware and the solution in over 115 production lines, 282 warehouses, and these 282 warehouses combined handle about more than 1,100 dispatches a day. When I say a dispatch, it's a truck full of load, completely digital supply chain enabled, completely eSeal enabled. So as you see, we are quite experienced in dealing with a number of customer situations. The solution is quite stable, and it's continuously being upgraded in terms of utilizing the latest technologies. Now, let me invite our esteemed client who has been using eSeal solution for about 2 years. Beta Shin, as Jack would explain, has implemented our supplier sponsor. They not only track their WIP, but they also have extended their visibility to their OEM. Tal, over to Jack.
Great. Welcome, Zach. Are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you loud and clear. Should I?
Great.
Next slide.
Yes, please. So as it's been stated already, Betashim is a manufacturing company. We've been in business for over 40 years. We have been dealing with aircraft type parts, machining parts made of metals, stainless steel, titanium, aluminum, lots of different types of parts, metals, so on and so forth that go into aircraft, which has very tight tolerances and over the years, very tight lead times. As you can see from the slide, which is kind of funny, it's showing relatively older technology on those slides. We're talking about 1920s technology, which was where we started. We started with old punch presses and old lathes. And our data was by clipboard and by yellow legal paper. Our customers, majority of them being in the aerospace industry, have been advancing over the years, and we've tried to stay with them or slightly ahead of them if possible kind of hard to do with companies like Lockheed Martin, who's building rockets. So before I chuckled when somebody said it's not rocket science. Well, for us, it is rocket science. We actually do have to stay on top of technology as best as possible. So our current process and model is that Sikorsky or Lockheed or Boeing or Bell ask us to make parts. We say we can, and we go ahead and manufacture them, which is simple enough if you're only doing one or two different types of part numbers. For us, we are one of, let's say, 1,000 or 500 suppliers to Lockheed Martin for their Sikorsky division. We make roughly 10,000 different part numbers in a given year. So it's a lot of things to juggle around with. And over the years, the old process was to give us a purchase order. We build the part, we ship the part, they make their aircraft. The quantities that they ask us for are enough for an entire year, 20, 30 years ago. Today's current process is lean manufacturing. They want whatever parts they need to build for that one aircraft that they're currently having the line. At any given time, Sikorsky or Lockheed Martin will have 20 different aircraft on the production floor, and they want the exact quantity of parts to manufacture those aircraft at the exact time that they're needed, because they're done in different build stages. We were never aware of those build stages before until most recently. But now that we're given more access and more data from Lockheed and Sikorsky and Bell and Boeing, we also want to supply back to them the same amount of information. No longer can we just sit there and say, oh yeah, you'll have your parts in a week or two. They need to know the exact day that they're going to get them, and they'd like to know whether they're getting what time of the day they're going to get their parts. On 10,000 different part numbers, it's a little hard to keep up with, especially for a small manufacturing company. We are 65 employees strong here, with majority of our efforts being put into actual production and into quality and traceability. As far as our customer service goes, we like to think that we are second to none. But at the same time, in order to provide the kind of customer service to 100 different companies that we work with, 100 different customers that we work with, and being only 65 employees strong and 10,000 different part numbers at a given year, it's a little hard to keep up with everything. You need automation. So next slide, please.
Yes, so Zach, before we go to the next slide, quick question. So what you were explaining, is this what they're talking about, the difference between just-in-time production and just-in-case production, the standard inventory model, and now is in, you have to kind of, like, you meet these requirements and the time is that generally the trend that you just explained in terms of the movement to demanding it right then and there?
Yeah, right. So the biggest problem with especially aerospace companies is that they cannot, and dealing with the U.S. government, is that they can't pre-bill the government for aircraft. They have to actually deliver the aircraft to the customer in order to get paid. So they don't want to sit on excessive amount of inventory. So that's the same for us as well. We don't want to sit there and make production parts for 2 or 3 years worth when our customer could turn around with a different revision change and all of our inventory would be scrapped. We don't get paid for that. So that's a huge loss of revenue. So we need to know exactly how many they need. It's funny because this is such a two-way street in the sense that they need a very specific amount of parts on very specific dates, and we need to know what those dates are so we can try to accommodate. Otherwise, I'm going to be off with my date. They're not going to need the parts all of a sudden. They're going to go to another supplier who does have parts readily available, because we're not the only supplier of these parts.
Right.
Any large OEM is going to have at least 2 suppliers who supply the same exact parts. So any misstep in my direction allows my competition to step in my place.
Step in, yeah. And you mentioned, you didn't get this information before, and now they're giving you this information. How is that information communicated to you? And is that brought into the eSeal system? A kind of, is there a way that integrates with the eSeal system flows in, or does it come to you in one way and you'd have to, make accommodations in your production process?
That is the reason why we brought in eSeal to this whole part of our process. Previously, what we were doing is majority of the OEMs out there have online portals where you can download all your current POs, any new POs, any current POs, any changes to your POs. Almost all OEMs also have their schedules online of when they need those parts by. This is relatively new information to us in the sense that in the past 10 years really is when the customers have been coming to us and saying, hey, listen, here's the actual date I need this on, going back to our lean manufacturing discussion we just had. In the previous, before that 20 years ago, they gave you a PO, it had a date of, let's say, December 2020 on it, and that's all you had to do is you had to deliver that quantity on, that date, that far out date. Now they want one piece today, they want 2 pieces tomorrow, they want 5 pieces a week from now. And we need to try and stay on top of that. And we also need information with not only from our customer, but from our internal sources, manufacturing inside of where those parts are in WIP. So we know that whether or not we have enough quantity to satisfy the customer, and if we have enough money or if we have enough quantity to satisfy our profit margins that we need. So with the newer, within the past 10 years, having these online portals by almost all OEMs, we are now able to download those transactions. And that's where we were getting stuck. We were able to see all this data and we were printing it out on paper. And they were hand checking it against our current MRP system, which is also 20 years old. And then we were going out and visually doing searching for these parts out in our shop, which could take hours. And then it was a guess on whether or not it moved from day to day. So every single day we were having to repeat the same process over and over and over again. And inevitably your customer comes back to you and says, hey, where are my parts and when am I going to get them? And you have to take a pretty wild guess at when you're going to get those parts because when you're doing everything manually and by hand, it's not going to be very accurate data.
Right.
You give them an inaccurate date, they're relying upon that date. That date doesn't happen. They don't. Then they have to push back their schedules, which push back other vendors and other suppliers and their schedules, and then everyone's schedules are off now. Now instead of somebody else being able to ship the same parts to meet that build schedule, their schedule's pushed off because I didn't meet a date. So that's their loss of revenue as well. So everyone, it's a chain effect. It affects everyone when you're late.
Right, right. And you're the guy they all point to as the guy who messed everything up.
Well, yeah, that's it. Yeah, you do it enough times. Trust me, everybody learns who's screwing up.
Right, especially in a
that's
small,
why we brought in.
Right, especially in a small, tight industry like this, reputation is everything, right? So that's so important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's why we brought in eSeal, though, is we were able to bring in eSeal and automate all these things we were doing manually. So now we are able to download the schedules, put them into a CSV file, and then upload those directly into eSeal, which then matches across all of our WIP and our current inventory. Now, the way we did this is that before, when everyone was talking about how are we mapping and getting data, well, we're mapping ours out with the 2D barcodes attached to our processes out in our, that start from the office when the order comes in the door, and then it goes to the processes through our engineering, out to our shop, into quality, and then out to our shipping department where we can put on our tracking numbers. So the customer knows where the parts are throughout the entire build as well as us internally. Those 2D barcodes are used as gateways to capture data going from one stage to the other. What we also are looking for is we're trying to capture anomalies. Anytime that there's a time when the parts cannot move forward in its process and then it stops production, we want to know why it happened. We want to know what the solution is for it and how long it takes to get it up and going again. So we're capturing all this data so we can have feedback. Also, if we want to get together 3 months from now and find out, hey, why were there all these anomalies happening at this one time? We can find out what the bottlenecks were. We can come up with solutions for them. But by attaching a 2D barcode to all of the part numbers as they go out into the shop and as they're capturing data, I now know where everything is currently. It's live data. It's constantly being updated. So I know where parts are, how long they've sat at each process, how many different jobs are out there for the same part number. And then I've also given our customers that insight by coming up with a portal through, or an eSeal has created a portal for me, an online portal that allows my customers to log in with secure access and only see their part numbers that they've generated and find out where they are in the process. Every single day, these OEMs have at least 2 to 3 meetings a day in regards to where parts are and where their build schedules are, and if their build schedules are on time. So if you take a company like Lockheed, for example, they do a lot of parts for the military, U.S. government, and also a lot of commercial parts. So they have a lot of different people looking for different part numbers. Instead of the customers having to come back to me and ask me on a daily basis where this part is, and like I said, we have over 10,000 different part numbers, they don't even know if they're asking me today, they don't know if that part is still needed tomorrow. So it's a constantly changing, revolving amount of part numbers and data that's going back and forth. They don't need to contact me anymore. They can pull up that data live and at a meeting, 9 o'clock, 1 o'clock, midnight, China, Japan, anywhere they want to go, they can pull up that data and it's live and it's accurate. They can see if there's something stopped because of them. They need to provide me with information, a blueprint, engineering help, whatever it may be, but they can pull up all this live data and they can make accurate assumptions or accurate decisions as to what their build schedules are and how they want to proceed with their own build schedules on the floor. So as far as the challenge that we're meeting, that we were facing, all these delays that the customer was having, that was passed on to us. They would push out our schedules, which means that that's a delay in us recognizing revenue. On top of which, they couldn't see our running live inventory, which turns out that now that they have access to it, we're realizing revenues much sooner because they're allowed to see that they can pull in dates because of this. They're allowed to see what our current WIPs is like and where the parts are in process, and if we're going to meet their deadlines. And if we, instead of them only needing 2, they all of a sudden realized at the last second that they had to scrap a piece. Now they need 3 pieces, and they can see that in our WIP that we have enough quantity to meet that, and they can increase our POs on the fly. So again, not only are we increasing our customer service to our customers, and we're decreasing the amount of people we need to have creating charts and providing customer service because eSeal is providing that for us, but we're also realizing an increase in revenue, and we're able to decrease our inventory amounts by realizing that revenue, by giving all that information to our customer. And yeah, it was scary. It was scary giving such open access to our customer, but we're realizing here it is 2 years later that it's definitely benefited us.
And it also shows your customer, builds customer loyalty, right? They feel you're opening the kimono, and to be able to kind of get that data builds trust. And so even if there's maybe slippages or something, you still have that trust built that you could rely on, I assume.
We had several people from expediters who had only worked at Lockheed for a couple months, all the way up to senior vice presidents coming to our facility just to see eSeal and see how it could help them out. And yeah, the whole idea is that they were trying to build a relationship of trust, making sure that when we have parts in-house that they are constantly flowing. We actually were able to help change the entire layout of priority system for the entire supply chain for Sikorsky aircraft. We were the second company that Lockheed had gone into to find out why priorities were being screwed up. And it was because there were so many managers and division managers and program managers at their company that were asking for parts that didn't really have a high priority. So they were putting low priority parts over high priority parts because nobody was talking to each other. By us providing this kind of data and this kind of a portal back to them, they are able to see, oh, yeah, wow, we need to actually give a priority across all the different divisions and all the different type of programs. And therefore, they were able to give us that priority. Now, by giving us that priority number, it also meant that we were able to ship against those priorities. I would much rather know that the part that I'm building right now is something I can ship right now, and not something that I'm going to build, and then they don't need it, and I have to put it on a shelf for 6 months. That's revenue I can't capitalize on.
Right. Interesting. Okay, so is there another slide after this, or we're at the kind of 5-minute mark here? Okay, great. Anything else, Zach, that you'd like to kind of point out in this process? I mean, it's fascinating. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on here.
Yeah. The only other thing I would throw on top of this is that this is being used as an overlay. eSeal is being put on, it's drawing its information not only from the 2D barcodes and the systems that we've set up out in the shop, but this is also extracting data from our MRP system that is over 22 years old. And we're about to buy brand new, we actually have just purchased brand new ERP software, and we're still going to use eSeal as an overlay to extract data.
Mm-hmm.
So it is, it's not dead software just because I'm upgrading all my other systems. It's actually going to be able to carry over regardless.
Right, right. So there, if you're there, I mean, how is eSeal architected to be able to scale with companies like this? If they implement new solutions, new ERP systems, obviously everything's being modernized. Is eSeal able to adapt to that and scale with it, or will it require rethinking and retooling in order to make it work?
eSeal is architected in a very modular manner, Val, so that irrespective of the ERP, we are able to write the integration points and execute them. With most of the ERPs, we have the standard APIs already written off the shelf. With certain new ERPs, we may have to rewrite some of these, which is not a big effort. Mm-hmm. But eSeal system per se doesn't have to go through any change because of the type of system a client is using.
Right. So it's a constant through this. And then, what are some of the challenges you face when you're talking to customers? Obviously, there's always like, oh, we've always done it this way and it's always going to be this way. What's the kind of unfreezing moment, if you will, where customers realize, yes, I need this? What's the biggest obstacle you face when you're speaking to customers?
One of the biggest realizations is that every customer is different, their supply chain is different, their business requirements are different, their reporting requirements are different. So one thing that we do is, the kind of time we invest into understand the supply chain of a particular customer, the more deeper we go, the better we can implement. There's no one size fits all kind of a thing, because each customer has a very unique requirement. And that's the biggest lesson that we have learned working with various clients.
Great. And I'm sure hearing stories like Zach's story really helps, at least, people within that similar industry, because they'll see the pain points and stuff that he addressed and the success that he's having. So that's great to see. Okay, so let me kind of here go because of the call to action. So here's a person to contact for anybody who's interested in finding out more information, maybe arranging a demo, talking to a reference customer. Just get in touch with Vamsi and he'll be able to kind of point you in the right direction. You could also visit the eSeal website where you can find out more information about eSeal, including product specifications and success stories and things like that. In fact, what I could do is probably click to that and see if that works. And then everybody comes there and just get the handle of this. And so this is a website that people can go to, and then you actually do a really good job in terms of graphically explaining how production works and where the bottlenecks are and how with the different kind of modules that works, and of course there's case studies and consumer information and stuff. All right. So anything else, gentlemen, that you'd like to add to this?
I'm good, Val. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sudhir. Thank you, Zach, for your time and valuable information. I think this is the kind of education that the market needs generally. Hearing from people who actually have gone through this and have the kind of the bullet holes in their vest to show all the things that they want to. Is there any last words, Zach, that you'd like to share about this, or broadly speaking, what your goals are within the organization and how you want to take this forward?
No, I think I'm all set for right now. Thank you.
Okay, well, fantastic. Thank you again for your time. Thank you, Sudhir. Thank you, everyone who's attended. We'll be sending out a replays of this webinar to all the attendees. If you do have any questions, please do get in touch with us. We'll be happy to talk to you. I know there's some really good questions coming in from the chat, and so feel free to contact us, and we'll be happy to answer those questions and arrange a demo. So once again, thanks, everyone. Tomorrow's webinar, if anyone's interested, is going to be on automated integration with using the Oracle Cloud integration. So that should be really interesting, and we'll hope to see more people there. Thanks, everyone, and goodbye and good evening.